场，接下来将是第2组选手的登场。首先，让我们用最热烈的掌声有请2018黄金超级联赛第1赛季亚军小 T。而他的对手则是2018 DreamHack 冠军，来自于丹麦的小将 Fury Hunter。决赛的最后一个名额即将揭晓，接下来让我们把画面来交给3位可爱的解说。
We are now on to the second semifinal of the day between Xiaoti, China's last hope, and Fury Hunter, the guy who has made quite a name for himself recently, but I would say kind of a dark horse in the tournament in general. Do you have any favorites or people you predict to win for this, Dr. J?
I think lineup-wise, I'm going to have to give it to Zhao Ti. It's just because Zhao Ti has that very aggressive approach that kind of preys on some of those, more awkward decks like Quest Rogue. So he definitely has the advantage there, but I think Fury Hunter overall has been playing extremely well through the entirety of the tournament, so it should be a good match to see, even if one of the lineups may be more favored than the other.
Yeah, we heard it from Tice as well, saying that he thinks Xiaoti is more favored, and the man himself, who has already made it to final, says that he would be comfortable facing off against either of them because he feels favored either way. And if we are to parallel this series to the one that we just witnessed between Tice and Orange, it seems like Fury Hunter's lineup is more similar to Orange's. It's slower, a bit more control-oriented, and it has the Quest Rogue as compared to Xiaoti's, which is more aggressive like Tice's.
Yeah, one of the issues for Fury Hunter is he went for this very anti-control kind of lineup with the Taunt Druid, Quest Rogue, Shadowwalk Shaman, and the Even Warlock. And Zhao Ti has 2 decks that essentially prey on half of those decks at least, in the Odd Hunter and the Tempo Mage. Both of those have very good win rates against Quest Rogue and Even Warlock. But the issue is, as Fury Hunter, you can't ban both. So he'll most likely have to ban out that Tempo Mage and leave up the Odd Hunter and hope that just one of his decks can slide through, and maybe even have to sacrifice a win over to the Odd Hunter because it will be strong against his lineup.
Yeah. Can't remember the last time we've seen a deck that has nearly a 90% win rate against something else. And the last time I can remember something like that is Control Warrior versus Freeze Mage back in the day. But yeah, this Tempo Mage is probably going to need to get banned away. So Fury Hunter's game plan is to try and sneak past this Odd Hunter from Xiaoti, or if he just accepts the loss from it, try to just win against maybe the Odd Rogue. I'm not sure which has a better chance between Odd Rogue and Zhu.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to try and slide that Quest Rogue through on the Odd Rogue. That's his best chance. Although we have seen that Quest Rogue can do some crazy shenanigans in its games. So, it potentially could slide through on any of these decks. The Odd Hunter, I think Fury Hunter is just gonna hope that, it has those awkward hands, because Odd Hunter isn't one of those decks you see too often in tournament format or even on ladder play, as it is very particular in what it does.
I'm a little curious as to where the production crew got their stats from, because even though I can kind of get behind Tempo Mage being nearly 90% favored against Quest Rogue, I don't think Zhu is as high as they put it at. I think they put it at over 70% against Quest Rogue, and I think Quest Rogue has a little bit more game against that, but who knows? Definitely Zhu is still favored in some capacity, and because of that, we are giving Xiao Ti the favored position in this matchup. But Fury Hunter has been on point throughout the whole tournament, as you mentioned. It has been 6 days of tournament prior to this, and this is now the last day of this week, which has been a bunch of Hearthstone action. EU versus CN, and Xiao Ti, despite being only one of 2 players from China to make it to the top 8, is now through to the semifinals.
Yeah, it was looking like it was about to be EU versus EU for quite some time, but Xiao Ti and XO did manage to qualify for that top 8, giving the European region a run for their money. And now Xiao Ti in the top 4, he is the last hope for China. And right now it's looking like Xiao Ti versus Europe, as he's going to need to take down 2 of Europe's finest if he wants to take home that Aston Martin.
We saw that Xiao Ti's Hunter was actually banned by Fury Hunter, and I'm a little bit surprised to see this, honestly. I'll admit I don't have much experience playing Odd Hunter of all things, but I just feel like Tempo Mage would be a more consistent deck, a more powerful deck, but Fury Hunter feels like he needs to just give that 2 mana deal 3 hero power the respect.
非常激动吧，然后保留住中国的最后一点希望。阵容上，在所有人里面，我觉得打可伦头的卡都是最劣势的，就没感觉到自己会赢。炉石传说就什么都有可能发生。
I got really lucky in one of the games with the Shadowwalk Shaman, but I feel like I played fairly well. I was really nervous for this match actually compared to the other 2. I could really feel the pressure, but yeah, I feel like it went well, and I'm glad I won.
觉得 Fury Hunter 之前小组赛包括8场比赛表现都很不错吧，然后就是打得也非常好。我打他就是卡组优势非常大吧，可以说是。对，就是这次其实一路打过来挺难的，因为一直在打就是比较偏劣势的对局，然后到后面终于遇到了自己优势的对局，希望能够就是不要再犯错误，然后拿下该赢的比赛。
I'm really unfavored versus Xiao Ti is that it's pretty good against my even Warlock and my Quest Rogue, so I really have to just get lucky and play well. Maybe he makes a mistake, or maybe I just get lucky and get that deck through. That's the way I win.
就我的所有套牌都是很极限的那种快攻，就是打他优势就很大。治疗员不要那个什么被他关注就好，剩下的职业倒不是很担心。
Xiao Ti's best decks against me are definitely Tempo Mage and Odd Hunter because they really just win against the Quest Rogue a lot. They are also really good against even Warlock. So I'm definitely gonna be banning one of those. Hopefully, I'm gonna just get a win with my Quest Rogue against one of his decks. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I am Fury Hunter, and I'm gonna show that Quest Rogue can beat anything.
我是小 T， 中国炉石，加油！
That last line from Fury Hunter, though, I'm gonna show that Quest Rogue can beat anything. Very bold words from Fury Hunter here.
Very bold words, but I don't think truer words have been spoken. Quest Rogue can indeed beat anything, and I almost would argue that it beats everything. It is that strong of a deck. And as you can see there, that Aston Martin, one of the 3 players left in this tournament, Tice, Xiao Ti, or Fury Hunter, may be riding away with that bad boy home.
That car is looking shinier every time we see it. I wonder if they have a crew to wax it down every night. This tournament has been going on for a week, so it might have been collecting dust otherwise. But going into the first game, it is Zhu versus, is this even lock? I thought I saw that the Warlock got banned, but it turns out it's Shutterwalk that's been banned away for Fury Hunter.
Yeah, this is going to be the even Warlock versus the Odd Rogue. And right now, it's already looking like kind of a, I would say this is looking bad for Fury Hunter right off the gate, because this is probably one of Fury Hunter's worst matchups for the Odd Rogue. The Quest Rogue, his best chance is to try and slide through on this Odd Rogue, as it does have the most favorable position. But even Warlock struggles a lot against Odd Rogue.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it was Zhu for some reason, but yeah, Odd Rogue is definitely favored heavily against the even lock, especially when they're on coin, because just being able to have that tempo swing of an immediate answer for one of the big threats in the form of Vilespine Slayer just gives so much tempo to the odd rogue.
We can see here, Zhao Ti has a very powerful start. Does keep that Cold Blood in the opening hand. I do agree with that. Cold Blood is one of the strongest cards in this matchup. Wouldn't be surprised to see a 1-drop come down at this turn, and then potentially, you know, that Argent Squire Cold Blood, and just keep going at it. If I remember correctly, Fury Hunter is... most lists nowadays have not been running the copy of Doomsayer, so there isn't too much of a punish from the end. If I look at Fury Hunter's lineup here, he actually does have access to one of those Doomsayers. But Zhao Ti saw Fury Hunter full mulligan, so we'll know that, you know, Doomsayer is most likely not in the realm of possibilities.
Yeah. So because Fury Hunter is on the defensive here, I wouldn't mind seeing him forego the tap here in favor of something like this Vulgar Homunculus. Not only does it stop a wave of Cold Blood, but it also survives just the possibility of daggering up from Zhao Ti here. So that is going to make the pressure kind of mitigated for Zhao Ti. If he goes for 1-drop plus Cold Blood, makes it so that Defile can clear the Cold-Blooded minion up immediately after trades into the Vulgar.
Yeah, as even Warlock, you really want to be trying to fit that life tap in as much as possible. But in a matchup like this, you really can't afford to, especially when you know that Cold Bloods are right around the corner. Just very aggressive plays, like, for instance, a Coin Vicious Fledgling could come down, and you really want to make sure you have an answer for that. So it definitely makes sense to get this 2-drop down, especially when Fury Hunter can life tap and play a Sun Fury Protector on the follow-up.
Right, so Zhao Ti, his choice of 1-drop is going to be this Firefly. I'm not too sure how big the argument is between going for Second Squire and Firefly, but yeah, Zhao Ti immediately going for the top there. I wouldn't hate using the Defile as early as now. It's preventing 6 damage.
Yeah, I think you have to, you know, commit to this Defile here. It does feel very unfortunate that it only clears up 2 of the minions. However, if you just play out the Sun Fury Protector, it gets eaten up by just the dagger and the 1-drop, and this 5/1 just keeps pushing the damage. I think Fury Hunter is kind of accepting here that he needs to contest the board instead of trying to use this Defile for its minimal purpose. He may feel as if he needs more value out of it, and he wants to get the Hooked Reaver to its breaking point at 15 life quicker, so it'll take a little bit of damage.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is a fair play from Fury Hunter. It's gonna bait not really bait, of course, Zhao Ti's gonna attack with the Argent Squire, but it's just getting him closer and closer to that Hooked Reaver. He's accepting the fact that, okay, I'm gonna try and expedite this minion, because if I just keep clearing the board every single turn, I'll eventually get burst down by the Odd Rogue, because at some point they're going to be able to stick something. So Fury Hunter's trying to make it so that he can have his own threat as soon as possible. The thing is, the Defile on this turn is quite awkward. And if he still doesn't want to Defile, then he doesn't really have a 4-drop other than the Hooked Reaver.
What Fury Hunter might also be thinking is that he wanted to save the Defile for 1 turn. That way he could go Defile Sun Fury Protector to try and kind of amount some kind of board state. The issue with that is if you go for that line of play and Zhao Ti doesn't decide to swing with the Dagger face, you don't enable the Hooked Reaver on the following turn. So I think you need to go for a life tap here in order to life tap into the 7/7 on the following turn.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. He forgoes the development of the Sun Fury, which could be useful later on to create some taunt minions, just to guarantee that he will have this Hooked Reaver activation. As for Zhao Ti, now that he knows that Fury Hunter can very easily tap to get to Hooked Reaver, he might just go for the Dagger face anyway, because it can buff this Henchclan Thug that he has in hand. He really is just hoping to draw Vile Spine soon, though.
He's going to need a Vile Spine for this Hooked Reaver, and we can even see that even after the first one gets answered by potentially Dagger, double Deckhand, and the 1-drop, if Zhao Ti does go for the 1-drop this turn, that Fury Hunter just has another one waiting right around the corner. This is actually looking fairly good for Fury Hunter for now. It's just a matter of, you know, does he keep drawing cards he can play in the next couple of turns, or will they be more awkward cards?
kind of want to see one deckhand come out as early as now. And yeah, so he's going for it because you saw Defile already, and even if there's Hellfire, it doesn't clear off the Hench Clan Thug. It's just best to play around the best play from Fury Hunter, which is exactly Hooked Reaver. And getting more damage onto the board early will help him just that little bit.
Well, I'm actually a little curious on this play. I think I would have rather seen the Flame Elemental come down, because right now Zhao Ti doesn't exactly have an answer for the Hooked Reaver if it does come out. His best answer will be putting the Hench Clan Thug and the Deckhand or his face into it. Whereas if he had played the 1-drop, he could go double Deckhand Dagger in and hold on to this Hench Clan Thug and be able to push the damage turn after turn with that. But now he'll have to sacrifice a larger minion since he didn't develop the Flame Elemental. The Flame Elemental, since it doesn't have charge.
So I think by going for it this way, he does actually want to get rid of the Hench Clan Thug. Oh my gosh. Sorry, my thought was, as weird as it sounds, just because he can push more damage immediately with the deckhand later on if he saves one in hand for some kind of burst potential. But all of that doesn't matter anyway. That was the perfect top deck for Zhao Ti. And Fury Hunter has 0 heal in hand. He has the second Hooked Reaver, but there is so much damage being presented for Zhao Ti on board.
Ooh, and the most that Fury Hunter can really do here is play out Hooked Reaver and Doomsayer, but I believe even after that, he
just
is
GG, yeah.
That is still game, as the deckhand is in hand. For Fury Hunter, he has to commit to it. We can see the deckhand's in hand. Zhao Ti's going to take this game, but there was a very small chance he could have been left alive at 1 health.
Yeah, I mean, that Vile Spine just came at the perfect moment. That is quite unfortunate for Fury Hunter there, but Zhao Ti, as we did say, is quite favored overall, so nothing unexpected.
And now, since the Odd Rogue did get the win on the Even Warlock, it's looking even worse for Fury Hunter. His Quest Rogue is going to have 2 of its hardest matchups ahead of him if he wants to try and win this series.
Yeah, Fury Hunter looked really visibly upset by that. I don't think he was expecting that Zhao Ti had the lethal there yet. I feel like he had many cards to be able to do it. SI7 Agent, Deadly Poison, and Cold Blood could still have done it, but I think Fury Hunter was expecting to still be able to make it past that Doomsayer turn, and that is going to be quite tilting indeed.
Yeah, I do think Fury Hunter was more frustrated that the Vile Spine had come off the top. I think he was in an okay spot if there wasn't for that Vile Spine. And I think other than that, maybe he's thinking about the turns that he took. Maybe he's thinking about a suboptimal line that he took during the turns. But right now he's got to shake it off and go to the next game, because he can still take this series. It's going to be very unfavored from this point. But, anything can happen.
Yeah, 100%. He did say Quest Rogue can beat anything, and he will show it. So here you go. It's a matchup that, according to these graphics, is 30% to win Zoo and 10% to win against Tempo Mage. I wonder if Fury Hunter wants to just queue it up immediately, because at some point he's going to need to play this deck anyway.
Yeah, it's not even that. It's just also that Tempo Mage beats up on Even Warlock pretty hard as well.
Yeah.
I think for Fury Hunter here, it's looking like he may have to sweep a Zoo Warlock, which is, we've actually seen a couple times in this tournament that it all came down to sweeping a Zoo Warlock, and I don't think it ever really panned out for the people trying to sweep the Zoo Warlock.
Yeah, it's been either sweeps of Zoo Warlock or even Quest Rogue people have completed sweeps onto that. So these are 2 decks that are highly represented in the tournament. I'm just a little bit sad that the Odd Hunter got banned out from Zhao Ti, just because it's something we don't get to watch every day. And honestly, I still feel like Tempo Mage might have been a bigger threat. But Fury Hunter is going to start off with this Taunt Druid of his, which has been teched to be a little bit better against aggro. You're running less, 1 Sleepy Dragon, 1 Dragon Hatcher, and you have room for Tar Creeper and Wrath that way.
Yeah, as for Taunt Druids and the way they go, this one is one of the better ones for aggressive matchups. However, I still think, sometimes it doesn't quite have the sustain to get there, as it won't have as many tools for the early game. But then again, all it takes is a Spellstone, all it takes is a Wrath, and being able to clear up a Mana Worm or an Arcanologist, and you can kind of get there in the end.
Yeah, that word sustain, I think that is the biggest problem for Tempo Mage, honestly, after their first wave of minion threats, which is usually, on average, maybe, 4 points of minion damage unless you get a really good Mana Worm. If that can be cleared, they're heavily reliant on just chucking spells to face, and that often doesn't get there against a deck that just has so much armor. So Shouty, I think this might be a game which requires Alaneth to finish.
Definitely will. We've seen Alunith drawn up quite a bit during the tournament. We've seen how powerful it is. See Zhao Ti go for the explosive runes there. Really wants to make sure that this Tar Creeper can't come down because he knows there is a one-up Tar Creeper in the list, and Tar Creeper is basically the aggro killer. That card is so strong against aggressive decks.
Shouty with the Cosmic Anomaly off the top has the option to just play it down. I don't hate it at all here because the second Arcanologist looks pretty weak in terms of the curve. Yes, the Cosmic Anomaly can be cleared by many things, Swipe, Spellstone, Wrath, but I feel like as Tempo Mage, there's too many things to play around against Druid. You just have to be as aggressive as possible and hope that your minions stick.
I agree. You kind of have to take those risks, and developing this minion now kind of helps for the future couple of turns. I don't think the Arcanologist plus Ping is that strong of a play. Zhao Ti's be really considering it here. Looks like he's just going to opt for that. Maybe, since he has this Shooting Star and he has this Arcane Missiles, he's really hoping to capitalize on that damage later on.
Fury Hunter, we see that he would have been able to clear the Cosmic Anomaly if it came out by coining out the Spellstone. But yeah, even then, having saved this Cosmic Anomaly, the Shooting Star doesn't get too much done. Might be that Zhao Ti just fireballs this Ironwood straight away.
I think he kind of has to. As bad as it feels to fireball just a 3/6, you really have to push damage each and every turn, try and maximize as much damage as possible. And it's not looking too strong for Zhao Ti right here. He just has a very awkward hand, and these Arcanologists aren't nearly pushing enough damage.
Yeah, and we see that Fury Hunter has this double Nourish hand. Counterspell has not had the time to be played by Zhao Ti, so Fury Hunter can very comfortably ramp this turn. Follow it up with some draw. He also has an option, I guess, to just play out a Q, but I really think that you need to take this Nourish while it's available.
Yeah, I could have contested with the Cube, but sometimes, Cube can be stronger later on, especially if you know your opponent has an explosive trap on the board, explosive runes on the board, as you will be able to, cube one of your taunt minions. Explosive runes will kill the cube, and then you'll get 2 copies of that taunt minion. So there is some counterplay with cube that can be used later on.
Zhao Ti with the pickup of Mana Worm. It's late, but not too late, I would say. Of course, as Taunt Druid, Fury Hunter does not have access to Spreading Plague. So Zhao Ti can try and develop the Mana Worm and maybe follow it up with either a Secret or the Arcane Intellect. With this many cards in hand, I would prefer to see a Secret. He might be expecting Primordial Drake on the next turn. So Mana Worm and Explosive Runes looks pretty good to me.
Oh, it almost looks as if,
Yeah.
Zhao Ti is going for a very aggressive line of play here. Recognizing that you're right, there is that possibility of Primordial Drake, but I guess he just wants to get as many minions onto the board as possible to try and contest something.
Fury Hunter doesn't have a minion that he particularly wants to play, but he has a Spellstone for the Cosmic Anomaly. Can't quite fit in both Swipe and Spellstone this turn. Do you think he has to naturalize this Mana Worm?
As much as it pains me to naturalize to give your opponent cards, I wouldn't be surprised if Fury Hunter went for it, because he's about to take quite a bit of damage if he doesn't answer this board state somehow, especially with the Mana Worm there. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see Spellstone come out and Naturalize come out as well.
I also think he has to do that. The Mana Worm has so much potential to grow if it's left on the board, and of course the Cosmic Anomaly is too much of a threat. That one absolutely needs to go with the Spellstone. If you give your opponent 2 more cards that are burn spells, at least they're not dealing repeated damage like the minion Mana Worm would do, and even growing damage.
Definitely a tough call, and it looks like Fury Hunter is going to be very resilient here. I think in Fury Hunter's mind, he's saying, you know what, I would rather not give Zhao Ti burn spells, because Fury Hunter's next turn is most likely going to be something like Hadronox Naturalize,
Wow.
and
Really
that's a
powerful
strong draw. Yeah.
So Fury Hunter's list does play Ultimate Infestation, so Zhao Ti might have a mind to go for Counterspell over Explosive Runes here. Definitely the Kirintor is coming down with one of those secrets. Counterspell most of the time will just prevent a coin, but if you can prevent coin UI for one turn, I think with this kind of board state, you should be winning most of the time. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Zhao Ti go for that. The best individual minion that Fury Hunter could play is the Sleepy Dragon here, though, which does eat up a lot of damage. So there's also a strong argument for this Explosive Ruins.
It's definitely a tough call. Zhao Ti will have seen that Fury Hunter waited quite some time on his turn before he Hero Power. Maybe has the read that there is the Hadronox coin Naturalize around the corner. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Counterspell here, as I think that's, one of the main ways you lose this game right now is that Hadronox play. But it looks like he says, you know what? You need to have the Hadronox. Might as well, play that out.
The Hadronox only has one Ironwood Golem behind it, right?
It has Tar Creeper as well.
Oh.
And with both of those minions, you can then proceed to start going Witching Hour Cube and try and put enough pressure up on the board in order to end the game that way. Because right now, just clearing the board isn't enough. You need to put on pressure or you give Zhao Ti too much time.
So, I guess Fury Hunter would decide to go for a full board clearance. Not entirely full. Would Swipe, Wrath, Naturalize, and Hero Power. I think you can get rid of everything.
Yeah, I think with the draw of the Wrath, it changes this play up quite a bit. Fury Hunter's probably considering whether he wants to Wrath for one onto the Sorcerer's Apprentice and then swipe. Yeah. Because if he does that, he gets another draw towards something like a Spellstone. So if he hits the Spellstone, he can clear up more of the board.
He also probably can't afford to use the double Naturalize. You might feel safe enough to just leave up these 2/2s. Wants to give Zhao Ti as little draw as possible, but just the one Naturalize could be enough to get him there soon. Of course, Zhao Ti had to use one Fireball already.
This is not looking good for Fury Hunter right now, as he does not have nearly enough taunt minions, and there is just burn from Zhao Ti's side of the hand.
Yeah, I believe the turn starts with Sorcerer's Apprentice because Zhao Ti is 2 damage off, including the ping. So you can go Sorcerers and Arcane Intellect, find something better. I'd like to see him fit in the Counterspell this turn, maybe save those Frostbolts in hand.
Definitely, especially because there is still another Cosmic Anomaly, and the draw of Cosmic Anomaly would mean these could potentially be lethal. But with that Cinder Storm, that is going to be lethal damage, and Zhao Ti is going to go up to a quick 2-0 over Fury Hunter.
Quick indeed. I don't think we can overstate that at all. Tempo Mage is fast and furious, and it didn't even get the Mana Worm on one start. Jaws simply didn't pan out to have enough armor there for Zhao Ti. If he had maybe gotten in a branching path at some point, he could have maybe stabilized to the point where he could go for the Hadronox Chains. But there you go, Zhao Ti with his very favored lineup only has to win with Zoo now.
Yeah, and Zoo's going to have a fairly decent matchup against the entirety of Fury Hunter's lineup. I think the worst matchup for it is that even Warlock, but against Taunt Druid and especially against Quest Rogue, it's going to be very difficult for Fury Hunter to reverse sweep.
Yeah, I would say close to impossible. All of the decks from Fury Hunter look like they do not have a very good chance at all. Maybe the Even Lock would be the best. I'm actually quite surprised to see that the Shutter Walk was banned over this Even Lock because I feel like it has the best chance against aggressive decks. But then maybe the Even Lock has a better chance against Zoo, but a worse chance against Odd Rogue, and vice versa for the Shutter Walk. So both bans have their merits for Zhao Ti.
Yeah, it also could have been some mind games playing a factor. For instance, if Zhao Ti thinks that Fury Hunter is going to ban the Mage away, like most players had done so, the Hunter is much more likely to get through on the Rogue and Warlock rather than the Rogue and Shaman, since I think the Hunter has a stronger matchup against Warlock than it would Shaman. Shaman has access to cards like Glacial Shards, Life Drinker, Healing Rain, which can just ultimately beat the Hunter overall. So if Zhao Ti expected Fury Hunter to ban the Mage, it makes sense to ban that Shaman out.
Yeah, I can definitely see where that's going. I would still like to hear from Fury Hunter as to why he banned the Hunter over the Tempo Mage, but either way, those decks are definitely beating up on this lineup. So Fury Hunter gonna go for his best matchup first, which is this even lock into the zoo from Zhao Ti. This is one of the matchups where you don't necessarily want to keep Mountain Giant.
Yeah, it's not a matchup you necessarily want to keep it, but being on coin, there's definitely some argument for keeping it. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Fury Hunter does, as you're not going to be playing too many minions in the early game anyways, and a way you win this matchup is by clearing the board while having a threat on the board. So if you don't have that threat, but you're constantly clearing the board, sometimes it's not enough. I can't stress how important it is as a control deck to not only have a proactive play, but also a reactive play. So you need both coupled together. So I like to keep it the Giant, especially being on the coin.
Fair enough. And Fury Hunter has also kept the Spellstone. Definitely agree with that one. And the Defile, while it might not seem that good on its own, paired with a Hellfire can get the even lock out of some life-threatening situations. As for Zhao Ti, the hand looks really weak here. That's awful. It's looking like the next turn will have to be tap as well most of the time. If the next two cards are exactly a healing card, and or if it's like Bold Librarian into healing card, that would be the best. But okay, he can at least play Happy Ghoul next turn.
And I see Fiona just constantly tapping. Could have played a 2-drop there, but really wants to get this Giant down next turn. And that is probably the next best couple of draws. We'll be able to play out Voodoo Doctor, Happy Ghoul. That is a 5/5 because it is buffed off Soul Infusion.
Yep.
And Prince Keliseth. I don't think that turn gets any better.
Yeah, and Fury Hunter feels like he... Okay, yeah, the Giant just does seem better here. Like, the Defile was only clearing up 2 of these minions. Next turn, Fury Hunter can go for Defile and possibly also be able to clear up the Happy Ghoul because of this early Giant development. And you see the reasoning for keeping it.
What is it with Prince Keliseth getting played and then the next draw is Chain Gang? I feel like that's just a common trend this tournament.
I don't know, but these aggro players have the heart of the cards with them, it seems like. So Zhao Ti can play that pretty happily, and I'd like to see him trade away the 2/1 into the Giant. I'm just not sure if you also trade the Keliseth. I guess trading away the Keliseth is better against Hellfire, but I'd like to see that push phase along with the Happy Ghoul.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's, I guess you would have to go for the trade on the 2/1 to really play around that Defile. You really can't risk losing the game to that, because right now Zhao Ti is in a very strong position. So as long as he gets rid of this 2/1 and makes sure Defile is not an out, especially because Sun Fury Protector Defile is a very powerful punish, as it will be able to clear the entire board while leaving Fury Hunter with a Giant.
Yeah, this is looking real dicey. Fury Hunter can go for a value trade and heal up his Giant with the Shroom Brewer, but that's giving up 1 piece of heal for himself, his own face later on. But I do think that he cannot afford to be healing his own face here while the board is still such a massive problem. And in that case, Twilight Drake does technically provide more total health stats. It's 10 as opposed to 8 from the Shroom Brewer. So I can definitely see where he's coming from.
Yeah, Zhao Ti has to be conscious of, how he plays around these AoEs. And Fury Hunter, this is what I'm talking about. I do think, Fury Hunter isn't in the greatest of positions right now, but I like how aggressive he's playing, understanding that, hey, you know what, if Zhao Ti's got the burn, he's got the burn. I'm just going to go ahead and play to my game plan, and eventually I'll be able to clear up this board and then push my own damage, because Fury Hunter will be able to push tons and tons of damage with his Twilight Drake Giant if he can clear the board after Zhao Ti develops it.
Unfortunately for him, Zhao Ti has the option to play down the Despicable and trade away his Keleseth into the Giant, isolate that Twilight Drake, push another 8 points of damage to the face. And the biggest scare for him there, I guess, would be to play Hooked Reaver. Even then, he has so much damage on board. Oh my gosh, off the top. Okay. Well, Hooked Reaver coin Sun Fury. That's my bad. I don't think that Shouty can actually push through all of that very comfortably.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how Zhao really pushes through this. There is some potential for also just coining out, say, the Acidic Swamp Ooze or the Vulgar Homunculus, because you don't necessarily need to commit to Sun Fury just yet. You may want to play Sun Fury on a future turn, and maybe getting the Spellstone upgraded this turn in order to play it next turn might be more beneficial.
Yeah, I can see the argument for Vulgar Homunculus over Ooze. I think that having those 2 upgraded Spellstones will definitely help him clear up the next board from Shouty. And Shouty without Fungalmancer, without Soulfire, it's looking pretty difficult for him here.
Yeah, from Zhao side, just has that Despicable Dreadlord he just drew. There's not really much that, I'm just trying to see currently what he can really do about this, but that draw from Fury Hunter in that Hooked Reaver is really going to push him over this game, and is the draw he needed.
Yeah. Shouty whiffs on the Fungalmancer, whiffs on the Soulfire, so he's going to have to take some painful trades here if he wants to clear up the Hooked Reaver, but I don't think he'll be doing that. Probably just developing the second Dreadlord, and, well, actually, second Dreadlord, then trade in your Happy Ghoul is pretty okay, and then you can use the Dreadlord to clear the Vulgar Homunculus. You can even fit in the Voidwalker to make sure that the Twilight Drake doesn't clear one of the Despicable Dreadlords.
Yeah, that second Dreadlord was actually a blessing in disguise, as it will allow the Hooked Reaver to die without too much repercussions. I mean, 2 Despicable Dreadlords on the board right now, just cleaning up some of the minions is very strong for Zhao. As you can see here, Fury Hunter will have access to potentially a Defile line of play if he wants to go for it. Not sure if he needs to do that quite yet. Could just Spellstone away the 4/5 Dreadlord, develop an Ooze, and start to push a little bit of damage.
Do you think Spellstone looks pretty necessary here?
I definitely think so. I think you had to Spellstone some kind of minion there. You can't really let this get too out of hand. And Zhao is kind of whiffing on his next couple of draws. The crazy thing is, even with Prince Keleseth and that insane start, this is a pretty bad matchup overall for the Zoolock, as even Warlock just has so many tools to kind of fight back. And the way Fury Hunter played it made sure he, had a condition to win on. If he had just played very reactively and wasn't playing as aggressively as he did, I don't know if he'd be in the same spot that he is now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that he's so far ahead even without the use of Hellfire. Usually that's the card that is so difficult for Zoo to deal with, but Fury Hunter put himself in a position where just one turn of developing your Giant, sure, you take kind of 8 damage that turn, but you invest that 8 points of your health to make sure that you can have the board state from that point onward, and it's paying off from here. Zhao fails to get some bigger threat off the top of his deck. Second Chain Gang might have made a difference, but just playing out Ooze and Blood Knight here doesn't seem like too much. Of course, you can buff the Blood Knight. But yeah, second Spellstone from Fury Hunter will be very difficult for Zhao to deal with.
Yeah, I think Zhao really has to rely on trying to draw some kind of burn off of the top. But as we can see, with that Spellstone in hand, it's going to mean that, even with a little bit of burn, with that Leroy that Zhao has packing inside of his list, it may just not be enough.
Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the board just looks so clean for a Defile. Not saying it's necessarily the play, because Fury Hunter might want to go for something that preserves his own board. But I don't think he can do that.
I really like first to see what's the next card and defying a hooked Reaver. I think that's a very strong play as it allows you to push damage. You get a perfect Defile, you have a second Defile, and then you can develop a 7/7 behind it.
Yeah. Sorry, you're getting a little bit robotic there, Dr. J. I don't know if it's on my end or yours, but yeah, I do agree with the Defile. And also getting the second hooked Reaver off the top, this just makes the turn perfect for Fury Hunter.
Am I still robotic, Gia? Am I still a robot right now?
Yeah, better. Not so Mr. Truckguide anymore. Okay. On my end, I think the stream is lagging a little bit. Okay. Discord, come on, work with us here. All right, so Leroy is the draw off the top for Xiaoti. That points of burst could come in handy, but I don't think Fury Hunter is going to be, he's not going to be taking risks, right? He has so much heal in hand that Leroy is not going to get there, even if Xiaoti finds a way to clear off this Hooked Reaver. If he just plays out 2 Flame Imps, he's getting himself very close to a counter lethal from Fury Hunter. Just 1 Hellfire, in fact.
If you're Xiaoti in this situation, I think you kind of have to take that risk, though. I don't think you really can afford to Leroy into this minion, give up your own board, and just let Fury Hunter dictate the trades. I think, although it's very rough, you just have to go for it. Just play out both these Flame Imps and say, you know what, you don't have Hellfire.
Yeah, he's not winning otherwise, so there you go. Fury Hunter, even if he doesn't get the lethal off the top here, has a really good response with Spellstone. Spellstone, a Flame Imp, Shroom Brewer your face, hit face with your Hooked Reaver.
Ooh, it appears as if Fury Hunter has different plans, wants to just, get rid of Soulfire outs and push this damage as quickly as possible. I don't think this gets punished by anything. Maybe Fury Hunter's just thinking that the only way he really loses this game is if he doesn't develop some kind of board here. There was that potential for Spellstone, push face, and Shroom Brewer back up the face, like you said. But maybe Fury Hunter felt that was too weak to something as crazy as Soulfire tap, Soulfire the other minion, and then have the board.
Yeah, he was just considering every possible out there, I guess. And Xiaoti has managed to survive another day. No, never mind. There's a Hellfire.
Just kidding.
Fury Hunter finally puts a win onto the board, but that is only the first phase of a very difficult reverse sweep, if that's even possible. Quest Rogue is still in the lineup, and not to mention Taunt Druid isn't that great against Zoo either.
Yeah, Taunt Druid's pretty weak to Zoo, but also that Quest Rogue. It is definitely possible for Fury Hunter to complete this reverse sweep. We've seen a bunch of reverse sweeps in the entirety of the tournament, but it's going to be very difficult, especially with Zoo Warlock being the deck that needs to be reverse swept.
I want to talk a little bit about the background of these two players. I would say that from the Chinese side, maybe Xiaoti is one of the more well-known ones, but he's also kind of new to the global Hearthstone scene. I would say he's had some recent tournament performances, but I'm not too familiar if he's played outside of China prior to this year. Whereas Fury Hunter has had a lot of experience within his own local scene, but really put his name out there when he won a recent DreamHack, and he is touted as the dark horse of Europe for this tournament. So I'm glad to see that there's people that are a bit newer, I guess, to international recognition to kind of balance out these huge titans like Tyson Orange.
Yeah, I do like it as well. I do like giving these players that are up and coming their chance. Xiaoti, I believe, is one of the highest point earners in the Chinese region, if not the highest. I believe he's came in second or top 4 at the Titanar that I got the pleasure to cast with Bob. There's also the Summer Championships that he got to compete in. He was one of the qualified players for China's that series. And if I remember correctly, he made at least top 16 in HCT Taichung. So he has had, just quite a bit of success recently in just the games that he's been playing.
Yeah. I also want to know where he got the idea for Odd Hunter, because that is a really ballsy move to bring that kind of deck. There's a lot of players in Europe and being like mastermind deck builders or lineup builders take huge risks. Like Rage really comes to mind, back before he wasn't working for Blizzard. So I wonder if Xiaoti has the potential to be someone like that for the China region. Imagine if like Odd Hunter is the reason you bring home an Aston Martin. What a story that is.
I think bringing home that Aston Martin is just story enough, but definitely when you add Odd Hunter into the mix, it makes a lot of sense. That's Odd Hunter seems to be the reason why Xiaoti has made it this far as it has been. He's been playing it not only exceptionally well, but on top of playing it exceptionally well, he is just very prominent with the aggressive decks. And it's one thing about the Chinese region is that it's very hard to kind of judge and guess, what they're going to bring, as their metagame is much different than ours. Their metagame is much, I wouldn't say aggressive, but they tend to bring more of the aggro decks.
Yeah, when it was still in the round of 16, I do believe I saw more aggro lineups from China as compared to EU. And although the tournament started out really, really in the favor of Europe in general, because they did go 8-0 in the first round of the group stages, Xiaoti is keeping the torch strong for China, and he's got a good chance to win this series and a decent chance to win the entire tournament. But I expect that Tice is not going to make that easy for him, and Tice himself is favored in that series if it is to be our finals.
Yeah, I think Tice is fine with either of these players that he could go up against. Right now, Fury Hunter has to collect his thoughts, calm himself down, and just kind of say, you know what? All it takes is a Master Oakheart, and you know what? All it takes is a giggling Sonya. So he definitely can do it.
Yeah, very simplified ways of explaining the matchups, but unfortunately they do ring true a lot of the time. I think yesterday we did see a very early Oakheart just crush the finals, the possibility of a finals run for 883650. We also saw the most insanely bad Shutter Walk outcome in the longest time. Just 3 glacial shards missing.
That was absolutely absurd. That's probably one of the, games I'm going to think about the most, as that was absolutely crazy how close it was.
Yeah, I was watching like the preview video before the tournament starts, and they had some recaps from yesterday. When they showed that clip of A8's Shutter Walk hitting face 3 times in a row, they also just interspersed it with a clip of his reaction, and he just had the most like, what the hell face, and I really felt for him at that point. But that is not to take away anything from Fury Hunter's achievement, because he did play very cleanly throughout the day. He does deserve to be here in the semifinals, but he's got a little bit more work to do if he wants to face Tice.
Yeah, got a little bit more indeed. And it's going to come down to whether he can get that quest stroke through, and whether, Taunt Druid does do what Druid is supposed to do, and that's ramp up and play one of the most powerful cards in the game, Master Oakheart. And even then, he has that more anti-aggressive version of the Taunt Druid, so it should be a little bit better for him overall than maybe the typical versions, and that's probably why he decided to go with that version of Taunt Druid, is as it allows him to be better against aggro while still being very good against control.
That's right, and it will be that Druid going first, so this looks like a good hand for Taunt Druid. I've seen it. Zoo, double ramp, Tar Creeper. This is the very reason you include Tar Creeper in the deck, even though in other matchups it really clunks up your pool of taunts. But as for Xiaoti, he has this Fungal Mancer on coin. I expect that he would keep it this time, even though it is in the leftmost slot in his hand.
Yeah, Fungal Mancer is one of the strongest cards in this matchup, and then having that Happy Ghoul, Kobold Librarian, being able to draw through.
Wow, is that a
it almost appeared. Yeah, he says, you know what, I like this hand, I'm just going to go ahead and full keep it. And I can't really blame him too much. It's a pretty powerful hand, and especially with the, Soul Infusion, not the most impactful draw, but will be strong later on if he can get that Fungal Mancer down and potentially hit a more powerful minion.
So I imagine Fury Hunter is very worried to see 4 cards kept in the hand. As for Xiaoti, though, surprisingly, none of those 4 cards are Keleseth. I actually wasn't too sure about keeping the Voidwalker here, for example. It's kind of a low-impact one-drop that you'd rather have in aggressive matchups, so it can defend your other minions. It does make sense that he starts with it over the Kobold Librarian, though, because in the case that Fury Hunter doesn't have Wild Growth, he'd be able to just hero power down the Kobold Librarian.
Makes sense. And now we're about to see why Tar Creeper is in the deck list. As you can see, Tar Creeper puts in a lot of work. There could be potential for Fury Hunter to go for another play now that he's drawn that branching paths. I think the initial play was that Tar Creeper, but with branching paths, he can go ahead and draw 2 because he really does need to find that Nourish as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Although it's not looking too bad for him. Next turn, he can go Wild Growth, stall 1 more turn, and then he can play Lich King. But in the meantime, Zhao Ti has something really powerful. He can go double 3 drops this turn into coin Fungal Mancer, and of course, you can't stop saying Taunt Druid doesn't have Spreading Plague, so there's no real punish for going very wide onto the board.
Yeah, this is looking very good for Zhao Ti right now. Even has access to coin Fungal Mancer on the following turn. That way he can keep pushing that damage, and even after that has the Leroy Jenkins to try and end this game as quickly as possible. Fury Hunter does not find that Nourish with the draw 2 he was looking for. So he's going to have to try and ramp up just a little bit with this Wild Growth, maybe play that Tar Creeper in order to try and soak up some damage. It's not looking too good for him right now.
Yeah. I think there was an alternative play of maybe going for Swipe this turn and then follow it up with Wild Growth and Tar Creeper so that your Lich King... the Lich King comes on the same turn, but at least you get to swipe and mitigate damage immediately, just because ramping to 7 does to me here.
Yeah, definitely a close call indeed. But now we can see this Fungal Mancer coming down, taking a value trade and pushing some damage. This is not looking good for Fury Hunter.
Yeah, really looks bad. I don't know. Okay, so there's Swipe and Spellstone that can deal a little bit of work. I think he can still survive until the Lich King turn, from what he can see. He might not feel the need to clear too many things, but we can see that Zhao Ti has this Leroy to push for potential lethal, so Fury Hunter has to respect this.
Yeah, Fury Hunter just he is very frustrated right now. You can see him just kind of go, "What is this? Like, this is insane." And I mean, you can't blame him. That was a very strong keep from Zhao Ti, and he's getting rewarded for it in spades and has that Leroy to end this game. I think the most that Fury Hunter can really do is swipe off the Fungal Mancer, Spellstone that Fungal Enchanter, and then just Hero Power and hope to live for the next couple of turns.
I guess there's also an option of going for Ironwood Golem over Swipe. I think the Spellstone definitely needs to go onto the 5/2 in some capacity, but the Swipe is only removing 4 points of damage, whereas technically the Ironwood Golem is removing 6. Okay, so he decides to go for it this way, which will... Okay. Yeah. For some reason, I thought that he actually Spellstone the Void Walker and then cleared the Fungal Enchanter just so he would remove 2 minions, but that is just way too much damage.
Oh, way too much damage indeed. And right now, Zhao Ti may be thinking about trying to put his opponent to... he can't put him quite to 4 yet. I would say if he could put Fury Hunter to 4, it might be worth just going for the Leroy here. But I don't think you can quite do that just yet. I'd rather see minions get developed onto the board. But Zhao Ti is really thinking about it right now. He is thinking about just jamming this Leroy.
Yeah, it's just so scary into Primordial Drake. So I think he's going to take the time to heal up that Kobold Librarian and possibly put down... Oh, there's just no good way to play around Primordial Drake here, huh?
No, I think this is the best way. But it looks like Zhao Ti may even just hold on to that Flame Imp, which kind of gets... I don't even think he gets punished by the Lich King. I think Zhao Ti's thinking about that right now, about whether he can beat Primordial Drake. Because if Lich King comes down, he still has lethal through the Lich King with the Leroy Soulfire.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, but that draw right there...
So that was the Ironwood Golem. Gets him some more stall time, but it is just stall unless he can pick up an immediate proc for the Hadronox, which is naturalized. So stall this turn, Lich King stall again. And then if you have drawn the naturalized by that point, he might just be able to pull this back.
I mean, to be honest, he may be able to just tempo out the Hadronox depending on how this next turn goes. As we can see from Zhao T, he doesn't have the strongest of starts, and it also depends on what Fury Hunter draws for turn. If he draws something like potentially a Primordial Drake or the Sleepy Dragon or even Master Oakheart, this game could just change immediately.
So Zhao T gonna clear off the whole board with the help of this Despicable Dreadlord, but he will have to trade off all his attacking minions this turn. He still has 10 burst from hand though. If I am Fury Hunter, I am not sure that I have the luxury to just tempo out the Hadronox here, because even if you play it that turn, there's no guarantee that it dies the next turn. Nothing on board has enough attack, so definitely like the Lich King here. Zhao T, just a little bit. Oh, Soul Infusion onto Leroy. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty strong, but unfortunately does not have quite that little bit of damage left. And yeah, he really wants to get this Hadronox tempoed onto the board immediately, but didn't have the luxury to do it that turn. May have to be forced to do it next turn, depending on what he draws.
I do like the Soul Infusion, Leroy. It's basically, yeah, you're spending the whole turn clearing the Lich King, but with the Despicable Dreadlord, at least the Whelps won't be a problem. He can push 8 this turn. Just has to dodge that naturalized, dodge bigger taunts again. Fury Hunter is on 1 turn to draw something good. And I think there is a little bit of a problem with the Spectator.
Yeah, I think so as well. So we're going to have to live this game through Fury Hunter's facial expressions.
Yes.
As we're not sure what he drew.
There you go.
There we go. And that's just game. Zhao T is going to take it 3-1 over Fury Hunter. And, it was looking like Fury Hunter had a chance there. But unfortunately for him, he's going to be knocked out in that 3rd, 4th slot. Zhao T is moving on to the finals to face off against Tice.
And I gotta say, that was really well played from Zhao T. That hand of his didn't look like the most obvious keep. I really think that the keep of the Fungalmancer on coin is just so powerful in Zoo. And yes, he didn't have the best 1-drops there. He didn't have Flame Imp, but just making sure that he had those early minions. So the Fungalmancer will always have something to land on. Just made it so that he was able to put on consistent pressure and get there. So there you go. We have our finals match, and it's 2 aggro lineups. That makes me happy, Dr. J.
Oh, trust me, whenever I see aggro do well, I just kind of it puts a smile on my face, as I'm a very aggressive gamer myself, and I love aggro decks. So it's very excited to see, these 2 different aggressive strategies work out as well as they did. I would say that right now, Tice has already beaten Zhao T once in the tournament, and Tice is feeling very strong against Zhao T. So this is looking pretty good for Tice, but, Zhao T's been playing pretty well throughout the entirety of the tournament, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gives Tice a run for his money, if not steals Tice's car away from him.
Yeah, Tice did indeed beat Zhao T in the first round of matches and sent him down to that lower bracket of their group. But Zhao T was able to take down not only just Colento, but Hunter Ace earlier on. Like, he's just on a roll with defeating the Titans of EU, and he showed very solid play. And I'm glad that the stream is still living up to its name, EU versus CN. The finals is still EU versus CN. So Zhao T, congratulations to him for making it this far. We've got such an exciting match up ahead.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see. Like you said, it was it started off as EU versus CN, then it went to EU versus EU, then it went to Zhao T versus EU, yes. And finally in the finals we have an EU versus CN finals, and you really can't ask for much more than that. It's really giving the fans what they want, and especially Tice being in the finals, streamed on Tice's channel. That's who would have thought?
It's all in the script, Dr. J. All in the script. Yeah, it is a final that, honestly, I couldn't ask for anything better. Maybe a lot of people out there would have wanted to see something like Tice versus... it couldn't have been Tice versus Orange because of the way the brackets were seeded. Maybe something like Tice versus Colento. But personally, I'm glad to see that the home region, of course, the hosts and the ones who have a lot to prove are still able to have a representative here. There was an EU versus CN in the past where they went 0-7. I remember this. And then at some point, the EU players decided to just play a bunch of 0-7s in their decks, like Doomsayers, and I can't remember the names of the cards. They're out of rotation. But there has been a history of EU beating on CN throughout this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes to show how powerful Europe is. So you can see there, Tyson Jiaoti is going to be your finalist for this tournament. One of these players is going to have the Aston Martin to themselves. Let's hear from Jiaoti about how he thought about that game.
中欧对抗赛的比赛现场，我是主持人小袁，现场的掌声可以再次响起来了。好，我们先恭喜小 T 成功的晋级决赛。那我们小 T 先跟大家一起来打个招呼。
Hello， 大家好，我是冰可乐小 T。
好，那我们看到这个小 T 晋级其实是我们意料当中的。那我们还是先请小 T 为我们这个解答一下问题好了。就是第一个就是最后一把去动物园去打对方的时候，为什么起手有菌菇、蓝胖那些全都留了呢？
我觉得就是菌菇术士在对抗强的这个对局中表现得非常强。然后，我看这个手牌结构如果全留的话，就是5费大概率是能架菌菇术士能架到2个怪的，所以我觉得比较稳妥。
是的，然后我们看到在这个后面的5、6费的回合的时候，一直按耐住内心的这种斩杀线，没有去出一个火车王直接冲，当时心情是怎么样的？怎么样克制住自己呢？
我当时就是不知道自己离胜利还有多远，就是很拿不准他，因为他的手牌确实很拿不准，所以还是有一点紧张，害怕被他翻到。
对，虽然说这个赛场上还是一个优势对他内心的压力还是非常非常大的，也恭喜你战胜了自己。那我们也要问一下，其实，在今天这个彩排的时候啊，各位选手都尝试过去坐到阿斯顿马丁里面去感受一下。那我想问一下，这个座驾它的体验是什么样的？
感觉体验肯定非常好吧。然后我看太子坐在车里很开心，我希望。
而且我们赛前的时候，太子也要求和小 T 在阿斯顿马丁面前合影了，是吗？对你评价一下太子好了，你觉得他人怎么样？
我觉得太子就是他，就是人很好，然后这一次比赛他表现的确实状态非常好，非常亮眼。
这个时候就开始难起来了，但是没有关系，我们也希望下一场比赛你和太子的对胜也能够非常非常精彩。那接下来我们要有请小 T 为我们抽取今天在现场的第2个能够获得黄金公开赛3亚战绩公开赛5周年的亚特兰蒂斯酒店的入住资格。来，有请我们的 Sugar。好，我相信现场有很多支持小 T 的。如果你支持他的话，就发出欢呼声，让他来抽到你，好不好？来，小 T， 抽取一个号码，来告诉我第一个数字是
1，
第2个数字是
7，
第3个数字是
3。
173号，恭喜你成功的获得到了在这个黄金公开赛3亚战期间的亚特兰蒂斯酒店的入住资格，再次恭喜你。好了，也请我们的小 T 到舞台边侧稍事休息，好好准备下一场比赛，加油加油加油！好了，再次感谢小 T。好，我相信你们和我一样，也想按耐住自己这个内心的激动心情啊，因为今天的话，我们接下来会有一个非常特殊的超幸运观众的颁奖仪式。那这位观众呢，是由之前苏宁易购提供的赞助的一个活动，购买折扣卡参与活动抽奖。今天呢，我们将会请上这位幸运的获得3000卡包的观众来到了现场。这位观众在哪里？请到台上来。好，其实在这个就是比赛前，我们也聊了一下3000卡包到底是一个什么样的概念。我们来让这位观众先跟大家一起来打个招呼。
大家好，我是来自湖北武汉的玩家。我已经是2个孩子的父亲了。
哇，那也是宝宝带给你幸运了，对吗？
对，这个卡包可以传给孩子了。
哎，我刚刚想问他，就是3000卡包怎么去使用？你真的要把它传给孩子吗？
开了以后，这个号以后传给他们。
也是把这一份对于炉石的热爱，对于这一份幸运一直延续给孩子。那我想问一下，自己炉石传说是一个什么水平？玩了几年了？
就是开服的时候我就玩了，但是那个时候就是没卡打不过，然后就放了一段时间，大概去年冰封王座之前回归的。
是。
然后那个回归以后，那个他就会送一些卡包嘛，
对，
送一些卡包就慢慢就打出来了。现在大概反正 每个月低保没问题吧？
对，也感谢你这个回归，让自己获得了3000卡包。那我想问一下，今天来到现场，你觉得是这个阿斯顿马丁酷呢，还是我们选手的表现更酷呢？
表现更酷。
好的，那我想问一下，你今天来到现场，除了这个参与到我们这个活动之外，还有来支持谁的呢？有没有支持的主播呀、解说呀，包括我们的选手呢？
选手的话，本来刚才的那个对手我也支持吧，因为我在丹麦住过5年。
也是比较看好这个 Fury Hunter，
对
但今天我们国手小 T 获胜，也再次祝贺他，对更好的一个结果。
对，
好的，那我们接下来的话，这个也是要问一下了，你觉得在最终的这个决赛当中，谁能够获得到机会开走这个阿斯顿马丁呢？
小 T 必胜。
好的，我们现场也是说到大家心坎里去了哈。那接下来我们要有请到的就是瓦娘上台，为我们这位获得3000包的幸运观众来颁发他的奖品。有请瓦娘。瓦娘要不要给个拥抱？好，我们先恭喜一下这位观众。好了，也请我们瓦娘在现场和我们的这个幸运观众来合影留念，有请。好，那我们这位新观众将会获得到的是1800的砰砰卡包，以及600经典卡包和600女巫森林卡包。再次恭喜他！你们是不是也非常羡慕呢？好的，非常感谢瓦娘，请留在台上来。好，那我们这一环节的这个颁奖仪式以及我们的赛后都已经是全部结束了，我们非常期待在总决赛的舞台上中国选手的表现，希望他能够带给我们非常精彩的表现。我们稍后再见。
大家好，我是芒，目前就职于网易暴雪，主要负责星际争霸相关的一些工作。作为一名暴雪的游戏粉，能在这里工作是一件非常幸福的事儿。我记得我玩的第一款暴雪游戏是《星际争霸1》，当时我还在读小学。暴雪游戏一直陪伴我的成长，当然在里面我最喜欢的还是《星际争霸2》。当我看见 Sky 在 WCG 上拿下《魔兽争霸3》的世界冠军的时候，我就心中埋下了一个种子，就特别希望能像他一样成为《星际争霸2》的一个世界冠军，所以就为此努力的去练习，然后参加了很多《星际2》的比赛。
称霸高校赛，免费上大学，欢迎。
在2015年的时候，我参加了我大学生涯的最后一届高校青年赛，当时稍有遗憾，最后是拿了成都赛区的《星际争霸2》的亚军。我逐渐认识到自己可能并不适合成为一名职业选手。但我 我觉得这个梦想不能因此就这样放弃了。我记得2013年的时候，我第一次在线下观看了高校新联赛《星际争霸2》的西南区决赛。当时那场线下的观看给我留下了非常深刻的印象，因为我第一次发现原来能坐在观众席和其他的这些都热爱星际的玩家一起去看这样的比赛，一起加油，一起呐喊，是非常让人激动的一件事儿。所以我当时就在想，如果我可以作为一个组织者，能够去办更多这样线下的比赛，那会不会能够让更多人体验到星际争霸的乐趣？实现梦想的方式也并不仅限于我成为一名职业选手这一条路。当我一腔热血的来到上海以后，我的梦想当然是能够加入网易暴雪，从事星际争霸相关的工作。但是由于当时我可能资历的欠缺也好，或者说工作经验也是有所欠缺，所以并不具备直接能进入网易暴雪的条件。所以我就开始尝试各种跟赛事相关的一些工作，包括兼职的 OB， 还有裁判。对当时的我来说，能够去做跟星际争霸2相关的一些工作，积累更多的一些赛事方面的经验，就是一件非常开心的事儿。因为我觉得这样的话，离我的梦想我又更进一步了。后来在2017年7月的时候，一次偶然的机会，我终于收到了来自网易暴雪的橄榄枝，投了一下简历，结果没想到第2天就收到了面试的通知。面试之后嘛，当然有人确认可以来，我就光速离职，然后来了报道了，这样。在开心的同时，我也深深地感受到了中国星际的不易，所以我也是希望能够通过自己的努力，能让更多的人感受到星际争霸2的魅力，这也是我一直以来的初心。从一名星际争霸的爱好者，到最后成为官方星际争霸的赛事负责人，这一路是非常曲折的，也是走了非常多的弯路的。所以我在这里呢，也是想跟大家分享一下我个人的一些经验和建议。首先呢，你得热爱这款游戏，我觉得这是最根本的。第一步，你得关注这款游戏的各种各样的大赛，然后呢，你得去参加这些比赛，你要切身的去感受一下比赛的每一个环节。第3步呢，你可以尝试着去组织一些比赛，参加你们学校的电竞社团，这样你可以收获很多的比赛组织相关的经验。我相信还有很多同学和我一样热爱暴雪游戏，并且想要加入网易大家庭。那么现在你们的机会来了，暴雪游戏高校新联赛招募计划已经开启，我仅代表电竞实习生在这里向广大的在校生发出邀请，参加暴雪游戏高校新联赛，和我一起实现你们的电竞职业之梦吧。
10多年了，谁说青春不能重来？我们一直都在。
很欣慰暴雪还在坚持的更新这么一款经典的游戏。
自从有了官方对战平台以后，玩家的数量或者说魔兽的口碑也一步步在增长。
我主要是喜欢魔兽争霸的编辑器的一些功能，可以去做一些炫酷的特效，就像我们创造一个世界一样，拥有自己的那种成就感。
投入地图是需要花费大量的时间，一个技能甚至可能会做上就是几小时。
官方平台也有去号召玩家说，把地图质量做好的前提下，是可以通过伤痕增加你一定额外收入的。在未来，把魔兽作为一个职业是完全有可能的。
每一次作者上龙良好的促进平时见不着面的作者在线下来一次交流，分享自己的经验。
我把地图做好的前提下，魔兽的发展可以带给作者更多的收获，带给玩家更多的快乐。
网易和暴雪在这面达成了非常一致的共识，不断优化我们的产品，让每位地图开发者能真正开发出更加优秀的游戏，把我们的整个产品平台带向一个更广阔的未来和空间。
欢迎收看最新一期的《星光闪耀》。今天我们会把目光放到釜山，来了解一下这位电竞冠军——王牌机甲驾驶员 Diva。
玩游戏就是要赢。
年仅19岁的他已经成为了国民英雄。上周，他再次冒着生命危险击退了鬼神致谢的进攻。他和机甲小队的成员遭受了一些损伤，但有惊无险地取得了胜利。现在， 迪瓦正在享受他努力迎来的炫酷生活。
嘿，哈娜，你是不是该去和粉丝合影签名了？
享受 VIP 待遇，品尝最顶级的料理，与其他明星朋友一起游玩。但迪瓦的生活并非一贯如此。
我也想体验一下炫酷的生活。嘿，我们为什么不和他们一起去休假呢？让我也感受一下什么叫炫酷吧。
他们太夸张了，戴璇。这里才是充满魔力的地方。还记得那次我们通宵改装你的悬浮摩托吗？
你是说你毁掉的那辆？
不是吧？你也太小心眼了。我们跑了第1名哎。
对，你还差点把命搭上。
大杯可乐，超棒！
唉，你打败了鬼神，他们至少能安分几个月。你也需要休息。
我什么都看不见。
我中弹了。我不能。
哈娜，
我们上次差点就输了。敌人会进化，他们正在一天天的变强。我的队友，我的国家，他们都只能靠我了。而我哪怕只是有1/1000的疏忽，我们就会失去一切。我必须完成这些测试。
别什么事情都自己扛着，需要帮助没什么丢脸的。
我能搞定，真的。
好吧，反正上头同意我们。等等，这不太对，不该这么快就。我们要等待增援，
就来不及了。
最后一个朝市区去了。
来了！再快点！阻止不了他了。戴璇，我需要你的帮助。
什么？好的，反应堆已经很不稳定了，你要赶快离开，不然机甲就要爆炸了，武器系统全部损坏。
反应堆，我们可以让它过载，就像是那场摩托赛。
什么？你疯了吗？这可不是该死的比赛！
我知道。可是如果不这样做，会有无数的人丧命。
好吧，给我点时间。
你们上来！
了，达到临界状态，反应堆60秒后就可以引爆。
等不了那么长时间了，我们就快飞进市区了。
哈娜，
相信我，戴璇，我会在终点线等你。
坚持住，哈娜，我在这儿，我就在这儿。
致谢的偷袭刚刚过去，市民们仍然惊魂未定。但万幸的是，多亏迪瓦的英勇表现，没有出现人员伤亡。他以一己之力阻止了鬼神的进攻。据官方消息，他目前状况良好，并无大碍。现在他正在享受假期，庆祝这场来之不易的胜利。下一条新闻
啊，我说，你是铁了心就宅在这儿了，对吗？
这有什么不好？这里有好吃的，有好喝的，还有好朋友。在我最需要他帮助的时候，对我不离不弃。
是吗？你看这一次，我也算是帮你拯救了城市，能不能帮我也要个 VIP 什么的，让我也去感受一下豪华的餐厅？
我觉得吧，你大概是最近综艺节目看得太多了。
欢迎来到2018炉石传说中欧对抗赛的舞台，最终的决赛即将打响，让我们有请决赛选手登场。第一位，他就是从败者组一路杀入决赛的中国战士小 T。而他的对手则是从胜者组未尝一败的荷兰选手太子。本赛季中欧炉石的最后战役即将打响，让我们把画面交给解说席。
It has been an entire week of EU versus CN, and it's all come down to this. It's just Thijs versus Xiaoti now, and this is a rematch of one of the group stages games in which Thijs took the win. Do you think that Xiaoti has a chance to take it this time, Dr. J?
I definitely think he does. I think he's been playing well through the entirety of the tournament, and his aggressive strategy has been paying off dividends for him, especially making it this far. However, he does have quite the unfavorable series of games that he will, have to win here. His lineup is unfavored against Thijs, but we did see earlier that he was pretty unfavored against Kolento and took down Kolento. So if there's anybody that can do it, it is definitely Xiaoti.
And their two lineups share a lot in common, having Odd Rogue, Tempo Mage, and Zoo in all of them. The only difference being that Thijs is running this Malygos Druid, whereas Xiaoti has this Odd Hunter, which I think will be the deck that might be his downfall when he faces Thijs.
Yeah, Odd Hunter is going to have a very difficult time trying to slide through. In the first series where Thijs played against Xiaoti, it actually came down to a game 5 where the Odd Hunter was against Tempo Mage, if I remember correctly. And Zhao Ti was just 1 damage off lethal at the very end of the game, and then Tice had a counter lethal into the series. As we saw there, I think they're showing these stats because, seeing how good that odd rogue is, especially because it is a mirror, so the mirror will be 50-50 based off of, the percentage points. But look at how good that odd rogue is against the entirety of Zhao Ti's lineup.
I do feel like that will be an immediate ban, and it might be that Tice also bans the odd rogue on Zhao Ti's side. Do you remember what they banned in their first series?
If I remember correctly, it was both players had banned out odd rogue. There is a small possibility of Zhao Ti banning out that Malagos druid, but I'm pretty positive that both of these players will ban out odd rogue, as odd rogue is, the most proficient deck against what they're currently playing.
Yeah, I don't think he particularly wants to ban out Malagos Druid when he still has Zoo. And I can't really tell you what the odd Hunter versus Malagos Druid matchup is, but I do feel like it can't be worse than that versus odd Rogue. So I expect that both players' Rogues will be out of contention. And looks like we might have a few good old-fashioned aggro mirrors coming our way. Aren't you excited, Dr. J?
Oh, I am thrilled. I love the aggressive mirrors because I feel like aggressive mirrors are very skill intensive in how they get played out. A lot of players joke about how, oh, you aggro player you, but I think honestly aggressive decks are much more difficult than control decks to play, especially aggro mirrors, as those little decisions between playing those cards determine the winner of a lot of these series.
There is a lot of optimization that can be done with little things like when to trade on the board, if to trade at all. And oftentimes, one missed attack to the face can be the whole difference in the series. And in particular, I think that the Tempo Mage mirror is a really weird one, just because a lot of the time it comes down to both players being on an empty hand unless somebody gets a Luna. And then at that point, because you have your own counter spells and explosive runes, you are preventing spells and minions from your opponent, but your own spells and minions are getting prevented from doing anything as well. So it can just come down to a ping battle, essentially. And that is something to see in the finals. I didn't really expect that, but let's hope that everything will be played very smoothly throughout this grand finals. We've had a bit of technical issues throughout the day and the week. Sorry about that, guys, but we're working on our hardest to make sure that you guys can enjoy Tice in the finals on Tice's channel.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this series. Should be a good one. Tice got the better of Zhao Ti the first time around, but I don't think Zhao Ti is going to give him that easy of a run for his money. So, let's just see what they have to say.
In the groups, and I know his lineup. I know he has Odd Hunter, but it's very, very weak to my lineup.
如果是打太子的话，肯定我的阵容还是劣势的。对，就像小组赛跟他打的那样，就已经输给过他一次了。
But it will also be, I think, just a very good series. I really respect him a lot as a player. He's really proven himself. So I really, it's also a very cool final to have as European against China. Watch your Tice. I'm ready for my matches, and I'm gonna win the tournament.
我是小 T， 加油！
I gotta say, that is one phrase that I understood, or two phrases that they mentioned in those interviews. 我是 I am Tice/Zhao Ti, and then Zhao Ti said 加油, which is like good luck, or I mean it's like let's go, I think. So both of these guys feeling the hype, and how can you not when you have that grand prize that's just been sitting beside the stage throughout the entire week, and it's all just gonna come down to a few points of damage to the face to see who gets to drive home a brand new Aston Martin.
Yeah, that's got to be very stressful to be playing the entirety of your game, and out the corner of your eye, you just see that you are 10 steps away from an Aston Martin, and we're getting off to a Zoo-lock mirror to start off. Tice has Prince Kaliseth and had the decision to keep Tar Creeper, but I think he wants more one-drops than that. And Zhao Ti doesn't look like he has the most, beneficial hand, especially being on the play, is going to really need to find a one-drop here.
Yeah. He does get it, and it is a 1-drop that is not ideal, this Kobold Librarian, but it can at least challenge what might be a coin Keleseth from Tice. In fact, if Tice draws a 1-drop, I might expect him to just hold back on the Keleseth for a bit, because if you coin that and then just play a 1-drop, it's kind of a waste to only buff one additional minion by +1/+1.
Yeah, Tice has a hard decision here. He could go for that Coin Prince Keleseth, which is a very appetizing play. The issue is exactly what you said. You don't have follow-up to this play, so if you go Coin Prince Keleseth into life tap and your opponent is just playing minion after minion, that could be very, very bad for you. Especially seeing how Zhao Ti has Soul Infusion, Voidwalker, but it looks like Tice is going to take this risk, just go ahead and play out that Prince Keleseth and utilize the buff as quickly as possible.
As long as he gets a 1-drop next turn, it should be good enough. And Zhao Ti with the 3/5, which can come onto the board and have taunt, is actually so powerful in the mirror. It can take 2, maybe even 3 value trades because he has this Fungal Enchanter to heal it up on the next turn. I do not see how he could ever pass up on this. He can even curve out with Happy Ghoul with the Fungal next turn. And this is a hand to maybe beat a Keleseth hand, if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, so what I actually really like here is I would like to see Zhao Ti just pass this turn and not even swing anywhere with the 2/1, not trade and not take the face damage, and just kind of tell Tice that he needs to have, some kind of, he needs to have, a way to he would have to life tap this turn. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. But with the face hit, you do leave yourself vulnerable to Happy Ghoul coming out. Whereas if you just had passed that turn, you'd force Tice to life tap, and then you can just take a value trade and do the Fungal Enchanter. So I don't quite like the hit, but, not going to get punished for it here, as there is no way to enable that Happy Ghoul.
That is quite next level, not even going for the face hit there, kind of cosplaying, like playing around an even lock, and you don't want their Hook Reaver to come down. But yeah, you really explained that well, and I definitely see the argument for it. Having 2 damage this early on wouldn't make too much of a difference. But now that he's started the damage, you have no choice but to keep it going, and this board from Zhao Ti on turn 3 is looking kind of insurmountable, even with a Keleseth buff.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think that, Keleseth in the hand, but Tice is just having a really rough time, especially not being able to really combat these minions right now. Just kind of is forced to play out this doubling imp just to put something on the board. And right now, if Zhao Ti wants to do so, knowing that the next best play next turn is just, a Serenite Chain Gang that's potentially buffed up, could just keep playing onto the board and just keep wailing away. I think value trades need to come out here if he does go for the Serenite Chain Gang, however. But, he can just push a lot of damage face, and this game could end very quickly.
I definitely like just the 1 value trade there, because even if the doubling imp gets a trade onto one of the Serenites, you can still trade away your Kobold Librarian. And if that is, he even needs to do so. Zhao Ti is presenting, 15 damage on board with Life Drinker. That's 18. Tice is at 19. He'll probably heal with the Voodoo Doctor. And I'm actually really surprised to see this trade from Zhao Ti come out. I feel like he really needed to push his advantage there, but most of the time this should still be enough, I think, even with the double Happy Ghoul coming out from Tice this turn.
Yeah, I think more so the reason Zhao Ti went for that trade is he was worried about the potential for a Fungal Enchanter Happy Ghoul turn from Tice. I think as long as he trades there, he's fine, because this board is insurmountable for Tice, and there's not much that Tice really can do besides kind of Hail Mary this Solarium. He needs to find something here. 5-drop isn't it? That's a bit of a start, but that's not what he was looking for.
Those are quite awful indeed. Those are 2 of the best cards that you need to discard, and nothing that's playable along with this Voidwalker. Tice doesn't really want to be Soul Infusioning his Fungal Mancer, but he doesn't really have the choice at this point. And I gotta say that the coining out of the Keleseth really came back to bite Tice there, not having a good play to follow it up. It's also that it gave Zhao Ti more room to play around, or to not have to play around Fungal Mancer. You see on turn 4 there, he could have maybe gone face because the coin Fungal Mancer wasn't a possibility at that point.
Yeah, and Tice thought there long and hard about whether he wanted to use the Soul Infusion there to buff up this Fungalmancer. I think he has to, just for the reason that he's not going to live long enough to be able to buff up the Chain Gang and play it in the next couple of turns. I think he needs this Fungalmancer to be more impactful when it does hit the board, but it's very unfortunate the Soul Infusion went onto the Fungalmancer and not the Chain Gang for the next couple of turns.
And Xiaoti is unfortunately healthy, so this Life Drinker is not going to actually activate the Happy Ghouls. I'm not surprised to see this Solarium at all. Doesn't quite have the mana to play a 5-drop, which is unfortunate, but he at least hits a 1 and a 3. And the doubling Imp doesn't have space at the moment, but of course Xiaoti can trade off his Kobold Librarian to make room.
Yeah, I think Xiaoti was really searching for that second Fungal Enchanter there, as that would have just been game-ending in and of itself. But, you know, he still has a very strong board state, and he's already seen one of the Despicable Dreadlords discarded from Tice. If I remember correctly, Tice does play 2 of the Dreadlords. He does. He was expecting more odd paladins in the tournament, so this is a bit of a risk.
That's right. So Tice now, even though the Fungalmancer looks like it creates 2 monstrous minions, they're only actually able to clear 2 things. So I think Tice is forced to play down the Saronite Chain Gang. It's quite good in the sense that only one of the minions can get value traded, because I assume he'll put his 4/4 into the Voidwalker. And then Tice can also heal it back up with the Voodoo Doctor.
Yeah, it appears to be Tice's only sort of play. If he goes for the Fungalmancer here, pretty sure he may just be dead on the follow-up. I mean, even if he's not, there's just way too much damage presented. So I definitely think it has to be that Saronite Chain Gang plus the Voodoo Doctor. Still a decent way to fight back for the board, but we can see Xiaoti will have plenty of refill for the next couple turns.
Yeah. And one consolation for Tice is that right now Xiaoti doesn't have anything to buff his minions, so that one Saronite might be able to eat 2 minions, whereas the other one stalls the Happy Ghoul. I can see a world where Tice can maybe come back, but it's very unlikely. Like, Xiaoti's next few draws have to be just completely dead.
And with that Fungal Enchanter, I would say that's probably the opposite of dead. Can take a value trade, fit in a life tap. That was a very strong draw. That's what Xiaoti was going for earlier on when he went for that Solarium, was just trying to draw this card.
I think this is pretty much lights out for Tice. Even though he gets to land this Fungalmancer, there's just too much damage onto the board. Even if he were to draw a Despicable Dreadlord, Xiaoti set up his board in a way to not be vulnerable to that at all.
Yeah, and if Xiaoti wants to, he can even go for trades to play around this Fungalmancer, which I'm not opposed to. I think the trades are very strong here, and as long as your opponent doesn't have a board the Zealot Mirror, there's no real way they can win the game. So these 2 trades do look very nice. Also forces that 4/3 into the 2/1 rather than the 3/1 going into it.
I think no matter which avenue Xiaoti takes, he will be fine here, but he just wants to make sure that any little piece of healing that Tice can put together will not be enough for him here. So best thing Tice can do is just to play down this doubling Imp. If he had picked up maybe something like a Soulfire, he could have prevented a little bit more damage, but this will just be game with the Life Drinker and the 12 points of damage on board.
Yeah, and if it wasn't game already, the Soulfire off the top makes it super game, and Xiaoti is going to go up to a quick 1-0.
There you go. Xiaoti takes down the mirror. One of what might be a couple more mirrors in the future. And I think it might be likely that we see a Zoo versus Tempo Mage matchup in the future. And this is something that people argue about a lot. Personally, I feel like the Tempo Mage is slightly, ever so slightly favored just because of the power of the shooting star with Cosmic Anomaly. But what's your take on the matchup, Dr. J?
I think it is close to 50-50. I can see merit for, both sides. I do think that Tempo Mage, when it does have either that early explosive rune start and capitalizes on having a Kirin-Tor, or if it has something like that shooting star with the Cosmic Anomaly that you were mentioning, it can seem very one-sided for the Tempo Mage. But sometimes Zulok, they just Soul Infusion the doubling Imp, they play that, and they take value trades onto things like mana worms, and it just kind of is smooth sailing for them. So I think there's definitely very powerful plays on both of their sides.
True enough. And I'm also curious as to whether you keep Alaneth in a lot of these matchups. As the Tempo Mage, you definitely want that against slower control-oriented decks, but there's merit to keeping it against aggro decks too, but only when it's supported by cheaper cards in your hand, right?
Yeah, I don't think you really can take that huge risk. We saw Tice earlier, exactly, I believe, against Zhao Ti in the earlier days, had the option of keeping Olunith in one of the series, but the other two cards in his hand were not very aggressive tools, and they were not, 1-drop Mana Worm or 2-drop Arcanologist. So when you have that decision, if you do have those early game, it does make more sense to keep it. But if you don't have that early game, then you kind of have to throw it away to look for it.
I'm very excited to see the Tempo Mage come into play if it wasn't obvious yet. And those two players are looking more focused than ever. So Tice assuming the steepled finger stance. That's a personal favorite of mine in terms of like the focus face, focus stance, as far as Hearthstone play goes, at least. And the very next matchup will be indeed a Tempo Mage versus Zoo.
I really like this keep from Tice. Decided to go for the Fungal Enchanter along with the Happy Ghoul because he knows he's most likely going to be damaged in some form or fashion, so he will be able to heal up and get that minion down. Having the combination 2 is really strong. I would have liked for Tice to maybe consider keeping the Soul Infusion. I'm a big proponent of keeping Soul Infusion in a lot of matchups. I think it's a very, very strong card, especially if the leftmost minion is something like a 1-drop. You can buff it up and take so many value trades in a Tempo Mage that it really, really helps. So I would have liked Tice to consider that, but I can't blame him for wanting to have some kind of 1-drop instead of the Soul Infusion.
Yeah, the 1-drop Flame Imp is very crucial to contest Mana Worm, although I would be more inclined to hard mulligan for it if you're going first. So Tice did see, though, that Zhao Ti missed the Mana Worm on 1, which is a very welcome sight for him. Tice also picks up a way to damage himself on turn 1, which is really important, so that now he's able to coin out the Fungal and Happy Ghoul. If he didn't get that Kobold, Zhao Ti would have just played this 2-drop, and Tice would have to hold back a turn. Oh my gosh!
Oh, that is, Tice fans are really just going wild in the crowd right now, as that was the best draw he could have had.
And Zhao Ti now is gonna have to hope for this Cosmic Anomaly to come off the top of his deck soon. But will he even have the time for that? That is a 5-mana play with the Shooting Star. Okay, Kirin Tor is a good start. It can at least stave off the next minion that Tice puts down.
It does stave off the minion that Tice puts down. Also will be able to, kind of contest the board. And if you thought it couldn't get worse for Zhao Ti, Tice has really shown you that it can't get worse. It can get much worse.
Think again. So Zhao Ti now is going to have to face off a massive board from Tice. The Kirin Tor cannot take any value trades, and because of that, I wouldn't be surprised to just see Tice push most of this damage phase. I would like to see the value trade onto the Arcanologist, but all right. So he's going to respect the Kirin Tor, I guess because it can value trade into the Kalisa. That's fair.
I think it's also the fact that Tice is so far ahead right now that he's going to be able to play turn after turn of minions, that the only real way he loses this game is if he gets cheated out by some kind of crazy primordial glyph turn into something else. So I think he understands that the only way he loses this game right now is if that Kirin Tor connects face and then Zhao Ti cheeses out the win with the primordial glyph.
Okay, that is the Cosmic Anomaly off the Arcane Intellect, which I was very happy to see that Zhao Ti played the Intellect. I feel like he had to, and hope that one of these missiles hits the Happy Ghoul. Okay, that is a very good comeback for Zhao Ti, and Tice, who no doubt will play a Chain Gang this turn, will have 3 of these minions eaten up by the Shooting Star. And I would like to see Zhao Ti aim it at the Keleseth so that the 3-attack minion doesn't survive and take a free trade into the Cosmic Anomaly.
You can just see Tice just get visibly distressed as soon as that Cosmic Anomaly came down. Snap play. And I think he knew what was happening. But right now, this Cosmic Anomaly living is so bad for Tice.
Yeah, this was just insane how Zhao Ti was able to pull it back. Very fortunate missiles, I gotta say. but he has the Alaneth to follow up. But I don't think he necessarily plays it next turn if he at least gets a cheap spell to go with the Arcanologist next turn, because Thais has the opportunity to go for another Chain Gang. If you're Thais, I don't think you have the liberty to play around a second Shooting Star at this point.
I don't think so either. And in Zhao Ti's position, I wouldn't be surprised to actually see him slam down that Alunith, as he will be able to get card advantage over Thais and be able to try and end the game through burn. Because right now, if Thais has to life tap over and over, Zhao Ti will be able to fit these fireballs in on the face and try and end the game that way. But of course, this all depends on, what does Zhao Ti draw for turn. If he draws something like that Shooting Star, then it could change up his play.
For sure. And Thais, it's a decision of whether to play the Voodoo Doctor or the Voidwalker with this. I definitely prefer the Voodoo Doctor because it has more attack to challenge this Cosmic Anomaly if Zhao Ti spends the time removing this. So because the spell is not too great, or the draw for Zhao Ti is not too great, I do also endorse just slamming the Aluneth now.
I think Zhao Ti is just thinking about, what can he afford to do here? And it looks like, he's got plays of his own, wants to go for that draw, really wants to find that Shooting Star.
Oh, not quite.
I think in Zhao Ti's head that he thought the only way for him to win this game, or the best way to get back in this game, was to find that Shooting Star. So it makes sense that he went for the play that he did. And to be honest, he still can draw it. He has the second Cosmic Anomaly now. We'll be able to find it potentially in the next couple of turns.
It will mean, though, that Thais has this window to start pushing back against Zhao Ti. He is only on one card, so Thais is forced to tap, but he has a lot of health to work with, whereas Zhao Ti is only at 18 now. So Thais needs to just get a little bit more minion damage there. Tar Creeper, pretty decent draw.
Yeah, I'd like to see both these minions come out here. I don't think there's too much merit to going for the Solarium, as it is a proc for counterspell that may mean that the final damage can be pushed with a Soulfire. And also, the Solarium maybe on a potential draw of a Leroy or, a Doomguard would push Thais over the edge. I think just getting more minions on the board now is pretty strong.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think Thais has no reason to trade into this Arcanologist as he is behind 2 taunts now. He's just thinking about the right positioning for a possible second Cosmic and Shooting Star. And you can see that half of that combo is available to Zhao Ti. And if he doesn't get that or some kind of glyph out, I don't think it's looking too good for our Chinese player here.
Yeah, Zhao Ti's going to need something here. Could potentially get that Alunith down, but he could just be dead, especially if all of this damage gets pushed face.
Yeah, Thais will be presenting 9 damage next turn at the minimum. And Zhao Ti at 13 means that Thais only needs a Fungal Enchanter or a Soulfire to finish off the game, unless Zhao Ti clears minions.
I mean, Zhao Ti may be forced just to go Sorcerer's Apprentice, Fireball, and Explosive Runes just to try and fight for this board back somehow.
I guess it means Kirintor plus Fireball then, and then the Secret in that case. It's just sad that the Arcanologist cannot clear anything without the help of a ping.
That is true. The Kirintor would be much better now that it's been drawn. So,
Zhao Ti just doesn't have a choice, though. You do not have the Alaneth here.
Yeah, I definitely think this has to be the play. Can't save that Sorcerer's Apprentice for later since the Kirintor got picked up. He's probably thinking about maybe potentially just playing out something else and just pinging. Looks like he wants to go for like a half measure.
It is actually kind of smart because the Tar Creeper is only presenting as much damage as the Saronite would have been. But, oh my gosh, with the Soulfire, Thais is so close to lethal now. Of course, he doesn't know whether the spell is Counterspell or Explosive Runes. Gonna take his time, but I'm pretty sure the turn starts with a tap, no matter what.
I think so as well. Thais is just considering here, is there any way he gets extremely punished by, life tapping and putting himself lower? I definitely think you have to go for it right now. You're still at a pretty comfortable life total. Oh, it looks like he's going to go for it first. Looks like he wants the life tap after the fact in order to make sure any minion he draws, he doesn't necessarily have to play or will discard.
Yeah, I mean, the play makes sense if you are fully sure that you want to Soulfire this turn, but seeing that it wasn't lethal even if the spell isn't a counter spell, I would have liked to see the tap first. Of course, that is kind of being a little bit results oriented, as we can see Fungal Enchanter would have been the draw, but I also think minions like Despicable Dreadlord would have been okay, or not necessarily since it's explosive runes. Maybe like a Doom Guard off the top.
But now, because Tice went for that, unorthodox sequencing of plays, didn't really want to try and commit to discarding the minion. If he had life tapped into save this minion, and then he still went for the Soul Infusion, Soulfire play. Right now, Zhao can go Cosmic Anomaly, Frostbolt the Voodoo Doctor, and then ping the 2-1. And as for him, Tice shouldn't have an answer unless it is that one of Doomguard or potentially Despicable Dreadlord. Maybe the second, Soulfire as well.
I was thinking if Xiaoti maybe even had to go for a full board clear. You do forego playing the Cosmic Anomaly that way, though. So this definitely looks better. And Tice, again, is 2 off lethal here. So given that he Soulfired the first Kirin-Tor, I assume that he'll want to Soulfire this Cosmic Anomaly as well. So this will be the sequencing so that he doesn't discard what he gets off the tap.
He is going to take quite a bit of damage from that explosive runes, though.
Oh, Solarium is the draw off the top. Xiaoti does have Counterspell, but I'm not sure how concerned he will be with playing it. The turn will definitely include a Fireball, though, so with the remaining mana.
He might as well.
Yep.
When counterspelling the Solarium, that is huge right now. The Solarium was an impressive draw, but if he gets this counterspell down, you have to Fireball that minion, don't you? It feels so bad.
And I can't help but think if the game would have turned out differently if Xiaoti had just slammed the Aluneth on that turn. He would have had one less minion at some point because of the Arcanologist not being played, but I feel like the draw would essentially have been the same. Because he gave up the Aluneth play just to fit in an Arcane Intellect with the Arcanologist. Would have drawn so much more instead. So he actually went face with the Fireball, which surprises me to no end.
I'm a little bit curious as to that. Oh, but Tice just whiffs on Doomguard or any source of damage.
Oh my gosh. And if he taps here, he's scared of dying to some sort of Fireball combination.
I think if you're Tice here, you just have to play out the minions. I don't think you can really afford to life tap because you're exactly right. Double Fireball plus ping is just lethal at that point.
Yeah, Tice's only outs there for lethal, I think, was Doomguard exactly because he played 2 Fungal Enchanter and 2 Soulfire already. So I really don't think it was worth going for the tap now. But Xiaoti has not a lethal out yet, but that's not Primordial Glyph. I was gonna say he had a glyph out. He can try to get it with this Thalnos and ping off the Thalnos. He needs something like Frost Nova.
So he needs to go Stargazer Luna, play out the 3-2, and the majority of his draws are very cheap. And I think he has to go for it now.
Yeah,
and there's still glyphs in the pool. Ooh.
I think you should start with the Arcane Missiles, just because you really need the glyph. And the mana on this Thalnos is a little bit too expensive.
Yeah, I'm a little curious to think about, Zhao T's ordering behind this play, but, he's going to hit a couple of those...
Whoa, wait.
Oh, Mana Worm needs to be a glyph. He needs to go quick.
That is not it, though. He has one more draw off the top. Has the other Frostbolt been played? Oh my gosh.
Oh, does he have enough time to get it all through?
Ah! Oh no! Oh my goodness, that was really tense. He managed to get it through, but Tice will know that anything except the what is it? Ice barrier would save him here. So he's just gonna take the attack phase, I think. Oh wait, no, yeah, this is 100% with the fatigue.
It's 100%. I like how Tice recognized that.
Yes.
Even in that moment, Tice realized that there was no reason to take the risk of trying to, attack into something that could have been ice barrier. That was very smart from Tice. I'm glad he stayed calm and recognized that, because that was a very intense moment where he could have just messed up by going face. But, I don't expect anything less than Tice.
Right, yes. Man, that was so tense. I can't believe that game. At the very end.
That was pretty crazy. I'm curious to think if he had gone for the missiles first and just didn't go for the Blood Mage Thanos, how much different it would have turned out. Because he would have had extra mana towards the end, and he would have possibly been able to take the meteor and use the meteor to clear off the board.
Yeah, so woulda, coulda, shoulda at that point. And now the players are 1-all, both of them having their zoo out of the way. Are you feeling like it's time for a Tempo Mage mirror there, Dr. J?
Now that I'm looking at it, I'm analyzing it, I'm thinking about it, and there's nothing more I would rather see than a Tempo Mage mirror, because I love Tempo Mage mirrors. I don't necessarily like Tempo Mage, but the Tempo Mage mirrors are really, really snowbally, really finicky. A lot of times, if both players don't have that mana worm on one, or one player can't really snowball the game out of control, then it's a back and forth of just utilizing their cards for their most potential.
Yeah, it is very interesting, the nuances of when you need to play your secrets and when you feel like you have the liberty to play out minions. I've seen these mirrors go to a point where players just don't play any minions at all when they have the read on explosive runes, because your opponent, if you trigger that, then you let your opponent play the second runes, and you just essentially wasted mana on playing minions. So this is the mirror coming up, and the builds are a little bit different. Tice has the 2 of a Money Berserker in place of only 1 Arcane Intellect.
Oh, and Xiao Ti just has the hand of hands right now. Tice full toss trying to find some kind of 1-drop or 2-drop could have potentially kept the Frostbolt, but I think that's too defensive of a play. But right now, Xiao Ti had the Mana Worm. Xiao Ti has access to a Lunith. This is looking really good for him right now.
Yeah. Funnily enough, it's not necessarily the Mana Worm gonna get too much work done here if Xiao Ti doesn't pick up something like a Glyph or a Frostball. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was looking like Xiao Ti would just play down the Arcanologist there. Glyph is looking pretty tasty right now, though. If you just take any cheap spell off the Glyph, then you can get the value trade with the Mana Worm, and that's already so powerful in the matchup.
I think it has to be Glyph here. I mean, the 2-3 is fairly strong. You do get through to those secrets quicker, but you really want this Mana Worm to put in more work, especially if you expect Tice to go for a 3-drop plus the... If you expect him to go for a 3-drop plus the Kirin Tor next turn, you really want this Mana Worm to value trade.
Yeah, and Xiao Ti forced to coin out a secret there. It's not the greatest use of coin, but it just allows him to take control of the board, forcing Tice to ping off the Mana Worm. And I do believe he took Vaporize, because Ice Barrier is pretty useless in this matchup when you're the one ahead on board.
Yeah, Tice just going to ping that away. That is a very passive turn from him. He was essentially forced to with how the hands panned out. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Xiao Ti just get that Arcanologist finally down.
There is an argument for going Arcane Intellect to maximize mana usage, but that would mean that the turn 4 play is likely just a secret, which doesn't feel great. So I do like just having the minion and taking the board control while you're the one who has a secret on board.
Yeah, the minion also contests any kind of play that Tice may have, and you get it down before explosive runes. For instance, if Tice is forced to try and tempo out one of the minions, it could contest something like the Kirin Tor or the Cosmic Anomaly. Plus, just getting the body down is always good because it will be able to get continuous damage in.
So Tice here is very afraid of the possibility of a spell-based secret. This is something off the glyph, so it could be crazy things like Mana Bind and Spellbender, not just your usual counter spell and Explosive Runes. So Tice plays his Explosive Runes, conceding that if it's a counter spell, I'd rather get rid of this.
This is not looking the greatest for Tice right now, as we do see Zhao Ti has access to that Alunith. We'll be able to play that in the next couple of turns.
And I expect Tice to just play down the second Explosive Runes. I don't think there's any spell on turn 5 that you necessarily want to counter. It's not likely that the Cinderstorm actually clears this Arcanologist.
Yeah, I think you're Tice here. You probably have to commit to the Explosive Runes. Just try and stop any kind of crazy shenanigans from Zhao Ti's side, especially if he wants to try and tempo out some kind of cosmic anomaly or something like that. But Tice has something different in mind.